We're so glad you're here. Let's all join together in worship. And let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We'll give you massive eyes when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let praise be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the soul inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lifting high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. We praise you. Good morning, you guys. I'm glad you're here. Y'all go ahead and have a seat, and let's all watch this together.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to worship at Bear Valley Church. My name's Kyle. I'm the youth pastor here, and I want to let you know about a couple things as our service gets started. If you're here with us in person, take out the bulletin that was on your seat on your way in. One thing you'll see in your bulletin is this communication card. Whether this is your first time here or you've been here a bunch, we would love for you to fill this card out and drop it in the container on your way out the door at the end of the service. If you're joining us online, you can fill out this same card at bearvalleychurch.com/connect. You can just let us know that you're tuning in and how we can pray for you this week. We would love to connect with you today. Also in your bulletin, you'll see some announcements about upcoming events. We're going to hear some more about those at the end of the service, so be sure to stick around after the message. That's all we've got for right now. Let's continue in worship.
I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God is never late, is working all things out. You're working all same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh, yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of your name. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of your name. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of your name. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of your name. Nothing can stand against. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh, yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. Will you pray with me? Father, this morning we come and we acknowledge your goodness and your faithfulness towards us. We sing songs about how good you are and how faithful you are and how much you love us. But this morning we don't want it to be just a song, just words that we sing out loud with our faces that don't actually have meaning for our lives. So this morning we pray that you will teach us what that meaning actually is and how it should shape what we do and how we love and how we treat each other. God, we want this morning to be about learning more how to be like you. We give you all the glory and all the praise as we attempt to do just that this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
I messed up. So I told her, you got a mirror, you can see what you look like in those jeans. So anyway, I don't know what to do.
You just talk to her.
And tell her what?
You tell her how you feel.
I did. I told her, I feel like you look like your mother.
Okay, no, you need to use your words. You know, romantic words.
Oh. Wait, what?
Okay, honey, you take your wife by her hands and you just pour into her.
Wait. Am I holding her hands or am I pouring something? I can't do both.
What? No, Todd, you are going to pour words into your wife. You look her in the eyes, dead set, and you just let go. Because that's what she does to you, Todd. She makes you let go. And you say to her, you mean everything to me. And I would let go of everything if it means that I just get to hold you for the rest of my life. And that's what you do. What are you doing?
I'm calling my wife, And you are going to tell me some pretty words to say to her.
We are not doing this.
Hey, babe. No, don't hang up. Don't hang up. I was an idiot. And I know you said some things too. You shouldn't have.
You don't say that.
That's what I meant. I meant I have some things to say to you right now.
No.
While we're on the phone.
Stop it.
Just listen. She said I have 2 minutes. What do I say? What do I say?
I'm sorry. For what? No, you tell her that.
I'm sorry. Babe? She's still there. I can hear her breathing.
Tell her I love you and you mean everything to me, and I am a fool because I don't tell you that more often.
I'm a fool for loving you, and I should say that stuff more often.
You were the only reason I am half the man I am. Your love and constant support is my daily breath.
I'm half the man I am because of you, and your love is a constraint.
Constant support.
No, no, your love is constantly on my breath, daily.
You are the greatest blessing God has ever given me, and you are perfect for me.
Babe, you're the best thing God ever did for me. You're perfect. For me, you're perfect. You're not perfect.
What are you doing? Just tell me what to say. Sunsets are more beautiful when you are on the horizon.
You're more beautiful at sunset on the horizon. It totally worked. Babe, I'm gone in 60 seconds.
What a moron.
You were great.
I know, right?
The words you said, I heard. I had no idea.
Seriously? You had no idea that some women fall for that stuff? I'm just glad you're not that gullible. By the way, what's for dinner? I've messed up.
Use your words, my friend. Use those words.
Okay, we're starting a new series today on relationships, and we're calling this series Social. The title is suggested by the new book called Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect. It's by Matthew Lieberman. He's a professor of psychiatry at UCLA. He's done some groundbreaking research in this book showing that our need to connect with other people is even more fundamental, more basic than our need for food and shelter. They also did a series of studies trying to understand what people think about most of the time. And so what they did is they would give people a statement to think about, and then they'd ask them, what were you thinking about once I made that statement? And they found out that most people considered every statement, they were trying to figure out how it would figure in on some of their relationships. Well, then they took it a step further, and they wanted to know, what do people think when they're basically not thinking about anything? And so they would do this. They would give them a statement, and then they'd ask them, okay, what was the first thing that came to your mind? And then they say, okay, give me 30 seconds to record your response, and then I have another statement for you. But really what they wanted to know is, what were they thinking about during that 30 seconds in between the questions? And what they discovered is that most of the time, they were going back to relationships. They were thinking about, how does this affect a person, a problem, a challenge, a family issue? It was all about relationships. And so, now, some of you remember those videos that talk about men and their nothing box. You remember that whole thing that men have this nothing box where they go, and what are they thinking about? Nothing. Well, actually, they determine they're not thinking about nothing. They're actually thinking about how do situations apply to relationships during that mind-wandering time. We are profoundly social creatures. So in this series, we're going to talk about how we can have more meaningful relationships, because more meaningful relationships are the pathway to a more meaningful life. And the Bible is full of information about this. So we have a lot to work with. And today we're talking about perfect love, imperfect relationships. Now, I thought it might be helpful to start out with some kids' perspective on relationships, and maybe it'll help us explain things. So here are 5 questions that were asked of elementary age kids. The first one was, how do you decide whom to marry? Kirsten said, no person really decides before they grow up who they're going to marry. God decided it all the way back before, and then you get to find out later who you're stuck with. Okay. Question 2, how can a stranger tell if 2 people are married? Derek said, you might have to guess based on whether they seem to be yelling at the same kids. I thought that was pretty perceptive. Number 3, when is it okay to kiss someone? This kid says, the rule goes like this. If you kiss someone, then you should marry them and have kids with them. It's the right thing to do. Okay, number 4, what do most people do on a date? Lynette said, dates are for having fun, and people should use them to get to know each other. Even boys have something to say if you listen to them long enough. Last one is this. What do your mom and dad both have in common? And Lori said, both of them don't want to have any more kids. Okay, so that's how relationships work. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 4 key ideas today about relationships. And we're going to start at the very beginning. Number 1, get out your bear notes and look with me. Number 1, every relationship needs to be based on love. That's the beginning of it all. Every relationship needs to be based on love. So God began His relationship with us based on love. And then that gift of love that He gave to us through Jesus Christ can be the centerpiece of all other relationships. God looked down on this broken world and realized that it was pretty much falling apart. And so He gave us this precious gift, the gift of love, the ability to exist in loving relationships. People agree in every culture around the world that there are all kind of issues related to our lives. There's our jobs and success and status and possessions and all those things. But every culture in the world agrees that relationships are the most important thing. But the challenge is that we're all so different. Right now we're working on planning for a men's retreat in Colorado this summer. And I was just thinking about the difference in planning a men's retreat and planning a women's retreat. So I've been in on some of those planning meetings for women's retreat, and it's all about candles and flowers and frou-frou and chocolate and stuff like that. And on the men's retreat, we're talking about bait shops and hardware stores and cigars. I mean, it couldn't be more different. But every person is different. I mean, every person is so radically different from every other person in this world. How do you build relationships in a situation like that? In one of His sermons, Jesus gave us all kinds of advice on how to build solid relationships. And so we're going to look at selected passages in the Sermon on the Mount, the first sermon, the first message, the first talk that Jesus gave, listed in the book of Matthew. And it's just loaded with stuff about relationships. And so here's the striking thing He said in Matthew 5. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Now, these are totally challenging words. First of all, it says love your neighbor. Well, that's hard enough, right? Love the people that are close to you. That's enough of a challenge in our lives. But then He adds to it, also love your enemies. Even those who persecute you, or who bully you, or who are hard to get along with, love them too. He's saying that every relationship, good or bad, needs to grow into love, needs to be based on love. It's so radical when He said this. I'm sure that a lot of people, thought He was crazy in saying this. But these are the kinds of things that Jesus said. And He didn't just tell us to love. He showed us what love is. It says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. We often think of love as a feeling. But when Jesus talks about love, most of the time, he's talking about actions. He's talking about doing loving things and loving in action form. Today, we're doing a community service project. It's going to be right down the street at a ministry called I Can Still Shine, which is for victims of children, it's for women and children victims of abuse. And so we're just going to go and help out. But let me tell you a little story behind this because it's kind of cool. So Brenda is it runs this ministry. And 2 or 3 years ago, they developed on their property some problems with drainage and stuff. The water was standing in certain areas. And some of the women, when they were coming over to pick up things, because they have 2 big storage units there, barns, I guess, where they can come and get things for a new home that they're trying to set up. And the water was standing right at the place where they parked their car. So they're stepping out of their car and stepping in 4 inches of water, you know. So she wanted to get some of that so it would drain away and they wouldn't have these water issues. So she kept trying to find somebody who would volunteer to come over and fix this for her and just couldn't find anyone. And so eventually she said she felt like God spoke to her heart and said, look, just stop looking for someone because one of these days someone is going to call and they're going to offer this to you. And so, a couple of weeks ago, Julia called up Brenda and said, is there anything that we can help you with? And she said, well, the number one thing I need is somebody to come out here and do a lot of dirt work. And Julia said, well, we have a guy in our church. I'm sure he'd be glad to come out and fix it. And so last week, he came out and he fixed it all. And so Brenda said, you won't believe this, but it was like 2 years ago when I prayed, and God said, just wait, someone will call and we'll fix this for you, and you're the one that called. And so that's where we're going today. We're going to meet up here at 1 o'clock in the parking lot and then carpool down. It's only 3 blocks away, but there's not much parking down there. And so we're just going to help and do whatever she needs, plant some flowers and clean up the property and mow and that sort of thing. And why do we do this? It's because community is our middle name. That's what we do. We go out there and share the love with our community because Jesus wanted all our relationships to be based on love. Well, that's the first thing. Let's look at number 2 on your outline. Number 2 is that every relationship requires a way to heal. Now, this is critical. Every relationship requires a way to heal if it's going to stay a relationship. Because here's 3 facts about every relationship. Every relationship is going to have conflict. Number 2, you're never going to agree 100% on everything in a relationship. And number 3, you must figure out a way to come back after a relationship is strained, because every relationship is going to have its share of problems. And so unless you devise a pathway to heal, every relationship ultimately is going to fail. Because when 2 sinners seek to build a close relationship together, they both bring their sin into that, and it just causes problems, and that's just the way life is. Some people say, well, if you really care about someone, you don't need to have to work through your problems. You just, love will just cover everything. But actually, no, that's not true. You have to work through problems because you bring your problems into the situation. He or she brings her problems into the situation. And when you bring all those problems together, there are just going to be some challenges. That's just the way life is. And so, if you don't work on the problems, if you don't have a pathway to heal, every relationship will ultimately break down. Now, Jesus said this, therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, then leave your gift there in front of the altar, go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Jesus is saying it's so important to have a pathway to heal that if even right in the middle of a worship service, you can get up and walk out, go fix something, and come back because it's that important. Somebody has to stop the cycle of relationship disasters. Jesus said, you heard it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person, and if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. If we follow the eye for an eye concept, sooner or later, there's going to be no more eyes to poke out. Forgiveness. Oftentimes, in forgiveness, we would say, I'm sorry. But here's the thing about I'm sorry. It's a starting point. But it's not the whole thing, because saying I'm sorry is really, you're telling them how you feel. You're telling them, okay, I feel sorry for what I did. And that's a good thing. But if you want to restore relationships, if you want a pathway to heal, there's some further steps that would really help. And here's what we do around our house. We do 3 steps. Number 1, tell how you discounted the other person. What I said was hurtful to you. That's the first one, is tell how you discounted the other person. Number 2, and this is the one I hate the worst, okay? Tell how you plan to do it differently next time, okay? So that's a tough one. So you got to be thinking, you got to think, okay, next time I'm going to have to come up with a different plan, so I won't do this again. Okay, number 1, tell how you discounted the other person. Number 2, tell how you plan to do it differently next time. And then number 3, ask the person to accept your apology and to receive forgiveness, to forgive you. If there's no way to heal, there's no way to have any lasting relationship in your life. And so every relationship needs a pathway to heal that relationship. Let's look at number 3. Okay, number 3. Every relationship has hidden enemies. Hidden enemies. There are hidden enemies. There are a lot of hidden enemies, but 2 that I specifically want to mention are wounds, hidden wounds in our lives, and our guilt. Everybody has wounds in their lives. Wounds from childhood friends, wounds from childhood enemies, wounds from parents, wounds from siblings, wounds from neglect, wounds from abuse. All of us have all these wounds in our lives. And the problem is that not only were those people who wounded us imperfect, so are we. We're imperfect too, and we have wounded others. Therefore, we have guilt in our lives over the things that we've done, and we often carry around this backpack of guilt. So we have these hidden enemies of woundedness and guilt in our lives, and unless you're willing to bring these wounds into the open and work through them toward healing, then we face a destiny of letting our wounds keep on wounding every single person that we ever try to have a relationship with. We're doomed to remain prisoners of childhood or prisoners of the past unless through God's power and love we can face our wounds, learn to forgive, and grieve our losses. I'm calling them hidden enemies because most people don't even notice that they're there. They don't even realize it. It's not in their conscious awareness. And so here's another thing Jesus said in the sermon. He said, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." Now, who in their right mind would walk around with their plank in their eye? Nobody would, right? It's because they don't notice it's there. I mean, if any of us knew that it was there, we would have surgery and have it removed, right? But this is why it's a hidden enemy, because we don't even realize it. That's why we got to have close friends that'll share with us and help us understand how we come across other people and things in our lives that we don't even notice. But here's the good thing. Here's the cool thing. God is bigger than my failures. And God wants to work with me toward a better future. And God has already forgiven me of past sins and sins I'm going to commit today and future sins. They're all forgiven because of the cross of Jesus Christ. And God wants you to start today with a clean slate. It's okay to be where you are. I know all of us wish that, we hadn't made some dreadful decisions that we made in the past, right? All of us wish that we could go back and change the past, but we can't. So today, it's okay to be right where you are, but the question is, what will you do today? God is willing to give you a clean slate to start with. But the challenge is, the decision is, how will I start today to live toward God's best? Now, you all have wounds. We all have some scars. But these scars can... one way to look at a scar is you're still alive, right? You got the scar, but you're still alive. You survived. And so hopefully someday these scars can become badges of honor that we wear that show that we are survivors. Okay, I read this humorous story that sort of relates. This young guy sat down on a plane next to, kind of an elegant lady, and she had this rock on her wedding ring, it was he was like a 20-carat diamond. And so, it sort of came up in the conversation. The young guy's like, well, tell me about that ring, And she said, well, it's actually famous. It's the white diamond. And she said, it's beautiful, but it comes with a dreaded curse. He was like, what? Well, what's the curse? She said, Mr. White. Okay. So, all right, now here's the thing. When you have Jesus in your life, you no longer have to live under a curse of those things that happened in your past. You've all got plenty of baggage in your life, but you no longer have to live under a curse. You have the supernatural love of Jesus Christ in your life every moment of every day, and you live totally loved by the most important person in your life, and that is Jesus. And when you have His love, you have the chance to overcome all the challenges that we face in life. Well, let's look at number 4. One more thing. Every relationship must have a pathway for growth. Every relationship must have a pathway for growth. Now, you may have said this yourself about your friend or spouse or someone that, they're not exactly the same person they were 10 years ago or same person that you married or whatever. And that's true, right? We change. We all change. Hopefully we're changing for the better. That's the goal, right? That we would not be the same person we were 10 years ago, that we would be a better version of that person. So in this talk that Jesus gave, in this message, this sermon that Jesus gave, He gave us a lot of concrete ideas on how we can grow, some specific areas, pathways to grow in our relationships. And so He talked about sacrificial love. And see, sacrificial love means that we need to be willing to love in a way that the other person understands. In other words, not to just do it our way, but to be willing to love in a way that they understand, that makes sense to them. Like, if I want to change them to be my way, then it's all about me, right? If I want to communicate only in the way that I like communicating, then it's all about me. If I want to bring all my baggage into the situation, then it's all about me. If I only want to love in ways that are meaningful to me and make sense to me, then it's all about me. But Jesus gave us sacrificial love, which means we're willing to do it their way. We're willing to see it through their eyes because that's what love is. In Matthew 7 it says, so in everything you do, do to others what you would have them do for you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. That's sacrificial love. Also listening. It's listening. It's a willingness to understand who they are so that you can know how to love them appropriately. It's more important to understand than it is to be understood. We've talked before about the 5 love languages. You know about that. Words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, service, or touch, or physical touch. Those are different ways in which people experience love. And so rather than saying, I'm going to love them in the way I want to, we say, do to others as you would have them do it to you. We say, I want to love you in the way that makes sense to you. Because that's what love is. That's what sacrificial love is. That's what it means to listen and to be able to tune in to their heart. Okay, here's another one. Jesus also said, you have heard it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Okay, let's talk about respect and faithfulness. That's another way in which we can build trust in our relationship. Respect and faithfulness. The 10 Commandments were given to us not for God's sake, they were given to us for our sake. They were given to us so that we would not mess up all our relationships. And relationships are built on trust. And that takes a lifetime of respect and faithfulness to be able to build that kind of trust. That's what the 10 Commandments are talking about. Jesus kind of raised the bar here on this even. And He said, we've got to live with respect. We've got to be faithful to those that we love. And here's another one about bringing faith into your relationship. So, sometimes people focus on how to change the other person. And let me just tell you, that's a big mistake because you can't really change a person. We don't have the power. We don't have a superpower that can change another person. But we do have one superpower, and that is we can change ourselves. So instead of wanting to change the other person, focus on changing yourself. And there's power in that. There's amazing power in relationships. When I work on changing me, all of a sudden, it changes the relationships around me. Jesus said, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. He's saying, put Jesus first in your relationship. Bring faith into your relationship. And there's enormous power there. There's amazing good things that can happen there. I know when Peggy and I were first dating, and I was, trying to figure out, this is back in college, I was trying to figure out, is this the one, not really sure about all this kind of stuff. And, here's one thing I noticed, that like I'm here and Peggy's here and God's up there, okay, that the closer we got to God, the closer we got to each other. And as our relationship grew, and as our relationship with God grew, as we brought faith into the relationship, we got closer and closer and closer together because we were both aiming at the same thing, and that is that God would be central in our lives, that we would love Jesus Christ more than anything else in the world. When you put God first in your life, you have the basic building blocks upon which to build a strong and a lasting relationship in any relationship that you have in your life. Let's look on the back. There's one more verse. Now, Jesus gave this message. He gave this sermon. And he had told them all these things. And we've talked about many of them here today. He gave them this whole list of things. Here's just a whole bunch of principles by which you can live your life. But here's how he ended it. He gave them all these principles, all these ideas. And then he said, okay, here's how it all works. You ready? Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Jesus is saying, all these good things I've been talking about, here's what it's like for somebody who takes the words and puts them into practice. It's like building your house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. And so there it is. Jesus says, take it or leave it. There it is. Ignore it at your own peril. For 2,000 years, people have been building relationships and marriages and friendships on this rock. And they found the miracle of God's love can hold relationships together. And this miracle is available to you today. But Jesus said, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And this rock of God's love is waiting for you. Let's pray. Our Father, today, we ask, Lord, that you would help us in all our relationships. Marriages, friendships, family relationships, all of them, Lord. We realize that we're up against a lot of stuff because there's so many things that can bring relationships down. Lord, I pray that we would put into our lives those things that bring relationships up and heal relationships and restore relationships and make relationships better and grow relationships. We thank you, Lord, that you've given us wisdom. We're not left on our own, but you've told us how to do it. I pray, Lord, now we would take your words, the words of Jesus, and put them into action. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey again, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for worship today. I want to let you know about a couple of things before we go. First of all, if you haven't filled out this communication card yet, go ahead and take a minute to do that right now. If you're with us in person, you can fill out this card and drop it in the container on your way out the door. If you're joining us online, you can fill out this same card at bearvalleychurch.com/connect. Thanks for connecting with us today. We also want to let you know about an awesome service opportunity coming up this afternoon. you can join us from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock for a service day at a ministry called I Can Still Shine. This is for women and children who are survivors of domestic abuse. We're going to be going kind of to their headquarters and doing some outdoor projects, stuff like yard work, planting flowers, some painting that we've got to do. We would love for you to join us. There is limited parking, so we're asking everyone to meet here at the church a little before 1 o'clock, and we'll carpool over there. It's not far, it's just down at Rumfield Road at the intersection with Precinct Line. If you have some garden tools or some other equipment, shovels and stuff like that you're able to bring, you are welcome to do that as well. You can wear a Bear Valley shirt like this one, or you can wear some clothes to paint if you'd like to work on one of the painting projects. Thanks for joining us for this awesome service opportunity today. That's all we've got for right now. Let's close out with one more worship song.
Thanks for joining us today. Let's all join together one more time for a song. Thirsty, come to the well that never runs dry. Drink of the water, come and thirst no more. Come all you sinners, come find His mercy. Come to the table, He will satisfy. Taste of His goodness, find what you're looking for. For God so loved the world that He gave us His one and only Son to save us. Whoever believes in Him will live forever. Bring all your failures, bring your addictions, come lay them down at the foot of the cross. Jesus is waiting there with open arms. Come see His open arms. For God so loved the world that He gave us His one and only Son to save us. Whoever believes in Him will live forever.